there, I'm Lori Jinkins, State Representative from the 27th Legislative District, representing the north end of Tacoma, northeast Tacoma, downtown, the Hilltop, east side, west side, Ruston, and a little slice of Fife. And I'm here at the Capitol today, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how a bill becomes a law, because I think we all assume that we know how that happens, and one of the lessons that I've had coming down here is that it's a little bit more complicated than I thought it maybe was at first. And my guess is that it's a little bit more complicated than you all think too. So the first item we have to talk about is how you actually get a bill drafted. So let's go off and do that now. So here we are standing inside the Pritchard building, which is where all the nonpartisan staff for the state legislature work. And usually what happens for a bill to get started is either a constituent comes to a legislator or a legislator has an idea themselves. Sometimes a state agency comes to us and talks to us about a bill that's important to them or an idea. We take that idea and then go to the nonpartisan staff, talk with them about our idea, and they're the ones who can actually draft a bill that's technically correct, that cites the right statutes that we might want changed, or adds a statute or something like that. So usually a legislator doesn't have to actually draft all the technical language themselves. We rely on experts on the nonpartisan staff to do that drafting for us. So we take it to them and they turn it around really fast in a couple of days, and they bring it back to us, and it looks something like this. So our bill has been drafted. The next thing that the Code Revisor's Office does is attach a blue sheet on the front. And you'll see all the signature lines here. As the prime sponsor of the bill, I'll sign on the very first line. I sign my name and what district I'm in. And then I personally walk this blue sheet around to other members of the House of Representatives, asking them if they would like to co-sponsor the bill with me and gather as many signatures as I can. Once I've done that and I decide I'm ready for the bill to be heard in committee, I come to the Code Revisor's Office and I drop my bill in what's known as the hopper. This is just an example today, so I'm not actually going to drop it in. But every bill that's heard by the legislature, this is really how it gets started. It's not a live bill that can be heard by any committee until you've dropped your bill in the hopper in the Code Revisor's Office. So that's the very first important step not to miss. The next thing that happens is the majority leader of the House of Representatives looks at every single bill that's filed and kind of assesses what topic area that bill is in. Now, one of the things that happens is the chair of every committee gets the chance to decide what bills they're going to hear or not hear. There are really thousands of bills filed every year, and not every bill even makes it to a committee hearing. Once they've decided to do that, they schedule the bills for a hearing. The prime sponsor of the bill will sit up here as the first person to testify on a bill and explain to the committee why they think the bill is important. The committee members all sit back here and can ask any questions that they might have. And then constituents, folks who think the bill is a good idea, will come and testify. Folks who think the bill is a problem and don't like it will come and testify. And this is really the first time that committee members or a broader number of people in the legislature start to get a sense of what your bill's about and any challenges or problems that you may have with the bill. After a few days of consideration, they can decide to vote it out of committee or to not vote it out of committee. They can also amend your bill. So once your bill moves into committee work, you kind of lose a little control over it because other people may have different interests than you have, or they may see something that's missing in your bill and decide to amend your bill. And so as a member of the House, you've got to be really flexible and be willing to talk to members and to constituents and other stakeholder groups about what concerns they have with regard to your bill, so that you can, every step along the way, try to perfect your bill and make it the best bill possible to actually become law. If the bill has a fiscal impact, it will now go on to the Ways and Means Committee in the House, so it'll have to go to a second committee. Once a bill has passed out of the Policy Committee and the Fiscal Committee, every single bill in the House then goes to the Rules Committee before it goes to the floor of the House. This is another place where we whittle down the number of bills that actually come to the floor of the House. It's kind of interesting because I think our setup actually, even though people think that we pass a lot of bills, most of the setup for legislation is actually to have bills not make it through rather than make it through. And the Rules Committee is one of the committees where lots of bills die. They never make it out of rules. The individual members of the committee get the opportunity to pick maybe one or two bills per meeting that they say they would like to see move to the floor. So members have to actually really lobby committee members to have their bills moved to the floor of the House. That's what happens here in the Rules Committee room. So here we are on the floor of the House of Representatives, and now I'm going to take you into our Democratic caucus room to show you what happens in there. We spend a lot of time in the caucus room when we're considering bills on the floor of the House of Representatives. What happens is when bills come out of the Rules Committee, the next thing that they do is go on to a list of bills that can be considered on the floor. And both the Republican members of the House caucus and the Democratic members of the House caucus, separately, we get briefings from committee members on bills, and we fully discuss them in caucus first. And if the caucus agrees that it's a bill that should be heard on the floor, then it goes out to the floor for a full vote of the House. We spend a lot of time here. Let's go back out to the House floor and I'll tell you what we do out there. So I'm sitting here at my desk on the House floor, and when a bill comes to the House floor, usually the prime sponsor of the bill stands up and makes a speech in favor of the bill, and then other members on either Republicans or Democrats can get up and make comment about whether or not they support the bill and ask people to vote one way or the other on it. Then the Speaker of the House calls for a vote, and what you do is either hit the yay button if you're in favor, the nay button if you're opposed. This is a place where we spend a lot of time also in the next few weeks, and we will go back and forth multiple times during the day between the floor of the House and the caucus rooms. Lots of hubbub and lots of work going on. It's like bees buzzing all around you. So this is the next stop for a bill. If it's past the House of Representatives floor, that means it goes to the Senate. Everything that I just told you about what happens to a bill in the House of Representatives then goes and happens in the Senate. Committee meetings, a Rules Committee, and a floor vote. That is if your bill does well. One of the things that can happen in the Senate, though, is that your bill goes to the Senate and it's heard in committee, and maybe some senators have a different idea about amendments they'd like to see, and they amend your bill. So the bill looks a little bit different coming out of the Senate than it does in the House. That's when we do something called concurrence. The bill will pass off of the Senate floor, and then it has to go back over to the House of Representatives, and the House then can decide yes or no whether they want to concur with what the Senate has done. If the House decides it doesn't want to do that, then the bill can do something called go to a conference committee, which happens when the House and the Senate kind of agree on the bill, but they don't agree on all the specifics of it. You're going to see that likely happen on our budget bills in the next few weeks, where there's a House bill that's passed and a Senate bill that's passed. There's a lot of things that are the same, but they're not identical. In the end, the only bills that get to go to the governor's office are ones that the House and the Senate agree on 100%, and they look identical with one another. So here we are at our last stop for a bill. We're standing in the governor's conference room, which is right off of the governor's office. If your bill has passed the House of Representatives and passed the Senate, and they agree 100% on every word that's in the bill, then the bill gets transmitted down to the governor's office, and this is where the governor signs all of her legislation. She actually sits in this chair. People who have been supportive of the bill, the prime sponsor of the bill, maybe other legislators who've worked on the bill, and stakeholders and constituents who are interested in the bill will get invited to come and stand here with her as she signs the bill, and then she passes out governor's pens to everyone as keepsakes. And usually then your bill becomes a law, typically 90 days after the governor has signed it. So there you have it in Washington State. That's how a bill becomes a law. I'm really happy to tell you that I have two bills that are going to be scheduled for the governor's signature in the next few days. One of them is a bill about the Board of Health in Washington, which is a constitutional board that's been in existence for almost 200 years now, just updating some of its authority. And the second one is my domestic partnership bill, which extends protections to all families to make sure that families who travel from out of state into Washington can easily access our domestic partnership laws. And hopefully there will be 5 others that will be coming to the governor's desk, but we'll see. I have to keep on working with the Senate. So that's how a bill becomes law. And you can see that there's a lot of steps that a bill has to go through. And the whole reason for all of those steps is to make sure that only the best ideas actually come forward and become law in Washington State. And also to make sure that as many people as may be interested in the topic get a chance to have input on a bill. So now you know a little bit more about how law is made. I'd invite you to come down here and watch it sometime. Please come. Take a look at some of our committee meetings or our floor action. And if you've got questions, please don't hesitate to email me. Thanks a lot for watching.